premise of Into the Eternal is a pretty simple and straightforward one. There's a big ass monster out there and it's coming to kill everyone. You play as a character called Eris, who is a small-time monster hunter who is now all of a sudden being given the task to take on this huge threat to save everyone. There is no speaking in this game, whereas most of the characters it is text dialogue, although the characters do look very good and very different from one another. You learn pretty quickly that the only way to defeat these monsters is by using a special sword that you need to collect throughout your playthrough. So far throughout my playthrough, you don't really learn a lot about the lore of the world that you're in. You just know that it's made up of a lot of deserts, towns and many other villages, and also temples which you go on a raid later. You also learn while talking to many other characters that essentially the government or the people who are in charge of the land aren't really going to do anything and have kind of just sort of accepted death, and you're the only one that can save them or even cares about doing anything about it. You do meet some key characters in this game, such as very early on in the game you meet a character called Grandma, who essentially tells you that there is a gem in the temple nearby that can help you get across the bridge. You also meet various other people like contractors that will give you money for going and hunting monsters, kind of how like the Witcher contracts worked in The Witcher 3. You also meet people that can help you crafting stuff and also making potions and various other things in this game. As I carried on realising through this playthrough, this game does not hold your hand in any way. It leaves you to sort of discover the world for yourself and sort of figure out the story as you go along. Which isn't a bad thing, as this engages me as a player to find out what is going on in the world and kind of what has been happening over time, and sort of get to know the characters a lot more and a lot better. As you go along the game, you will discover more buildings which have more interesting things inside them, like there being a tavern, as I mentioned earlier, that give you Witcher contracts. There's also a shop that you can buy stuff from, which can help you throughout your playthrough. Even with my short time with this game, the story did generally interest me, and I generally want to find out more. I want to get the full release of this game so I can find out what the grander picture is of the people and what their world they live in. I love the fact that the developers made each character feel very different and their own personalities sort of shone through. Not two characters are necessarily the same all the time. They have their different traits and their different personalities. Some are very rude, some are more jokers. Whereas the developers, again, they have thought this out very well and presented it pretty good. The one thing I want to spend the most time talking about in this game is the combat. The combat is very different to most other games. It's not your stereotypical 3D in front, dodging around the map and getting hit in. They've changed it to a sort of side scroller where you basically go along a track and have to hit enemies. I love this idea, and it's different to a lot of what games typically do. Although it does have its flaws, which I will get to in a second. A lot of the time, enemies can just be defeated by mashing the attack button and doesn't really require a lot of skill. My issue with the combat is that it kind of doesn't really tell you what to do in certain situations, as later on in the game, enemies, instead of running straight at you, some will jump over you, some will throw things at you, and others have special attacks. The game doesn't really have a tutorial to really tell you what to do in these situations. It's kind of one of those, figure it out when you die repeatedly, and the next go you'll probably figure it out. Again, this took a very long time, but I'm kind of glad it's not a linear experience. I'm glad it made me take time to think about my approach when engaging enemies throughout the world. Again, not every enemy you see in the world you have to encounter. The only way that you can do this is by walking up to them, and it triggers a really quick sort of scene where it transitions and you get straight into combat. I'm glad that this game, I have to say, it has little to no load times. Everything's pretty instantly, which I find really good. Whereas if there was a loading screen, I'd probably find myself getting really annoyed being defeated by an enemy I didn't know how to beat and having to repeatedly go through load screens to redo the fight. The checkpoints in this game are quite linear. Usually it's typically when you enter a building and exit one, it will give you a checkpoint. Now I just want to move on to a bit about the parts of the combat I really don't like, and I feel like it's too simple in the game, which may need to be tweaked at a later date. But I'm going to demonstrate what I mean by the fact that you can just stand there and just mash the attack button and finish a fight so quickly. This is with one of the boss fights. Apart from that one criticism of the game, where the combat really shines in this game is the ruins and temples they have in this game. The temples really change up the pace for the game from the standard combat and the outside world. I had so much fun going into these temples and exploring them and defeating enemies, getting keys and solving, small obstacles to get to my next objective to pass and get the gem that I needed for the mission. While down here, you encounter a whole bunch of different enemies you'd see up top. This makes it very interesting. The art style with the ruins as well makes it very aesthetically pleasing. It makes me feel very nostalgic playing one of these games, especially the boss fight you're seeing on screen made it feel like a classic game that I used to play as a kid. And I really love the fact that it's combined with a side scroller with 3D graphics, with the character models especially. I think this is particularly good what they did. Furthermore, to back up my points, the boss fights in the ruins were a lot more challenging and a lot more engaging and fun to do than the one you saw on the bridge. This one I actually had to think about. Even though I can't jump over this guy, I have to think of ways to dodge his hammer before he kills me, because the respawning in this one's not linear. If you die down here, you will start from the beginning and have to recollect all the keys to unlock all the doors again. Later on in the game, you come across the farm, which is kind of a sort of hub and home for you in this game, which is where you can craft many potions, many other items, and buy and upgrade the farm as well, so you can acquire items more on the regular, or even sell some stuff for money which you can use to purchase from the shop. I like this idea of a sort of crafting system. It's very simple and it's also very rewarding. Even though it's quite costly, I think it was a great idea for the developers to put in the game to make it feel like you're working towards more than just one thing and going through the game. If you guys have seen me on Twitch playing Witcher 3 and many other games, you know I'm a sucker for crafting system and upgrading things. I absolutely love doing this sort of thing, because it's always the reward you get out of it is the best thing. There's also chests in this game that allows you to pick up items that will give you bonus stats to your sword, shield, and many other things that are to come in this game, which I'm very happy about, which adds a level of exploration in this game for actually looking around every corner to see if there's a chest that could help improve you defeating monsters throughout the world. The one thing I want to talk about lastly, and the reason why I left it to the very end of the review to talk about, is the visuals in this game. This game looks fantastic. It looks amazing considering it was built on the Unity engine. This game looks so pretty, but I do have one criticism. The nighttime mode is way too dark, and you can see on screen I have not dimmed the settings at all, and also there is no brightness setting or gamma meter in this game to improve things. It's very hard to see things at nighttime. However, the lighting of buildings and taverns that shine through the night sky is very aesthetically pleasing. It looks very good. I just want the brightness or something turned up to actually be able to see where I'm going, because half the time I am not able to see. One small suggestion I would have would maybe to add like a torch you could carry in your hand at nighttime. Considering it's nighttime, you're not really in combat until you walk up to an enemy. This could be easily unequipped as you get into a combat fight. I just want something to... I want to keep the aesthetic of the night, because I think, again, buildings give off a very good light when you see them in the distance. I just want to see where I'm going, man. All I want to see is where I'm going. But when it hits daytime in the Southfields, it looks so pretty. I can't get enough over how much detail. I was running this on an Ultra with a RTX 2080 with an i9, and this game looks graphically pleasing and it's aesthetically good to walk through. Like, I know I'm getting giddy talking about this, but I think it's just worth mentioning how much detail was actually put into the game with the world that you're in. To the grass, to the trees blowing in the wind, it just looks very good. Most recently, most AAA games struggle to get this amount of immersion out of their players while people are playing them. With this game, it's not even a big production and it looks really good, and I'm really happy that they took the time to put the level of detail and attention into it that they did. I'm going to stop saying the words really good pretty soon. With having said all this, I generally had a really fun time playing this. Honestly, this isn't one of those games that I would add to my basket and would actually look forward to release. But by God, when this game gets a full release, you bet it's getting my money, because I think it's going to be very good. And I hope this game continues to improve in the way that it has. So with all that said, I'm going to give this game a rating 8.5 out of 10. I really hope this game fulfills what they're going to do, because on the surface of it, and having played it for the time that I did, I wanted more. Like, I got to the edge of the world and it says this area is coming soon, and I felt so disappointed I couldn't carry on playing, because it generally, I have this feeling with games, I know when it's going to be good, and I feel like the developers will continue to grow on this and it will be fantastic. I just wanted to give a quick little mention as well. Thank you to Zero Infinite Games for allowing me to play this and review it for them. I highly appreciate it. Shout out to Keymailer as well, which is the way I got through to these guys and I was able to actually request a key from them. Also guys, if you really like the review, please subscribe, please like the video so I can do more. Also, I stream on Twitch now. It's twitch.tv/BigMattKaz. So if you guys want to give the live stream a shot, please do give them a try and I will see you all there. I also have a Discord server, so please, all the relevant links will be down below, including the store page to Into the Eternal if you're interested in playing early access for it. But anyway guys, that's going to do it for me. I've been BigMattKaz. Thank you all for watching and I will see you all in the next one. Take care guys.